Hello, welcome back to the Nourishing Routes channel. It's me, Marissa Pendlebury, where I show you how to love food, adore your body and become your authentic self. In this eating disorder support recovery video, I really want to talk about fear foods and challenging fear foods. I'll also want to talk about how sometimes in recovery, even though we gain a healthy amount of weight or we gain weight, how still challenging fear foods is really important to recovery. Now, to get to the point straight away, I've come to challenge myself recently on the fact that sometimes I don't challenge myself enough. And when we don't challenge ourselves enough, it gives that window of opportunity for any eating disorder, whether that be anorexia, bulimia, binge eating disorder, whatever you've experienced, to creep back in. So to give you a little bit of an example, have you ever experienced when you feel, you might be doing well in recovery, you have your meal plan going, you have a certain amount of calories that you eat a day, you've challenged yourself to some fear foods, maybe some cake, biscuits, whatever you have, and you feel you've overcome them, and then suddenly you think, well, I've challenged them once, so I can stop now and everything's okay. But then you might be scrolling through Instagram or social media or whatever you're doing, and you'll see maybe a clean eating account, a vegan account, or a fitness account, and you think, they've got some really nice acai bowl there, or a nice bowl of porridge there. That one's really healthy. Oh, you know what would be really good if I created my diet to be a little bit healthier, now that I'm on recovery, a little bit better. So what we can sometimes do is feel like we have to follow, a healthy eating plan. And before you know it, this gives a massive, wide, open opportunity for the eating disorder to go, right, I'm going to creep back in, but in a really subtle way where, we're not going to stop eating. I'm not going to make you lose loads of weight. But what I am going to do is make you feel like you need to follow a certain type of dietary regime. And initially, following this regime does feel safe. It does feel good. It gives us some element of control again. But really, it's kind of an insidious way of the eating disorder going, I'm going to make you feel good now, because in about 10 days' time, you're going to feel, in restrictive mode again. But sometimes it's hard to actually feel as though you've gone down a restrictive route again, because in your mind, you're still eating healthy. You feel as though your body's healthy. People still look at you and go, she's well or he's well. So, no alarm bells are ringing. You don't feel disordered. You just feel as though, like a lot of other people today, are eating healthy. But then comes a challenge. So you might be going out to eat for a meal, you might be in a cafe somewhere with a friend, or have an opportunity to eat spontaneously, and suddenly you realise that a food is put in front of you, or an opportunity to eat, and you realise that actually you can't eat that, or you feel like you might feel guilty or going against something if you give in to that food. So this has happened to me multiple times, and it's really frustrating because I'm like, why have I ended up in this position again? So to give you an example, a few years ago I followed, this is after my first initial recovery, and I followed a more vegan lifestyle because at the time loads of people were following vegan lifestyles. It was seen as like the route to recovery from anorexia. I saw a lot of people from eating disorders, telling the world about how they've overcome anorexia through, following a more ethical lifestyle and realising that food played a bigger part in everybody's life, and other than, exploiting animals. And I was like, you know what, yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds good to me, and I feel in a healthy place to follow this regime. So, like a lot of other people, I jumped on the bandwagon, and it felt great initially. I felt like I could liberate my restrictions, eat anything I wanted to, just so long it was vegan and it looked, healthy, even if it was in the form of a cake. At least it wasn't vegan. But then slowly, but very surely, I started to cut more and more things out. So suddenly it was dairy, but then it was refined sugar, and then it was refined anything. Before I knew it, I'd slipped into this orthorexia mindset. And, it didn't happen overnight, but I think if you've ever suffered from an eating disorder or any form of disordered eating, it's easy for any regime to kind of just get in there and sabotage your mind. And reflecting on this over the last few months, I've had to realise that I've had to step away from, 100% ethical lifestyle, because it wasn't true to me and it wasn't true to my recovery. And it made me have a whole new list of fear foods again. And it made me really, really restrictive without really me noticing or anybody else noticing. Because as you may know, eating disorders are really, really, really sneaky. Which brings me to the main point of this video, which is why challenging fear foods is really, really, really important. No matter what you weigh, look like, or how far in eating disorder recovery you may think that you are. Because fear foods can remain that way for your life if you want to and if you don't challenge them. And to me, having fear foods unnecessarily isn't full recovery, because it's allowing anorexia or any other eating disorder to still have, even if it's a small hold, it's still got a grip on your shoulder. And many times I felt as though even though the eating disorder isn't next to me anymore, it's still standing in the corner of the room. And still, that shouldn't be acceptable. If you lived with a partner who was really abusive and he really controlled you, or she really controlled you for a good amount of your life and made you feel like absolute crap, then why should it be acceptable for that person to still remain with you in some way? I feel in order to really recover, we really just need to give it a good old slap on the face and say, no, this is unacceptable and I will not allow you to come into my life and have a hold on anything. And even if that's just a fear food or something that you restrict yourself to not having, then that is still allowing that eating disorder to still play a small yet significant part in your life. So yeah, you can go your whole life without eating a piece of cake, eating a biscuit, or going out and eating spontaneously at a cafe and not allowing yourself what everybody else would normally have. But is that really living in a modern world? Or no? And unless you're living on a beach in Bali somewhere, or India, or somewhere really, ethical or vegan in its lifestyle, then it's not healthy to live restrictively. So for me, I've had to really address this over the last few months, and being an ambassador for Nourishing Routes and what it stands for, it was like a slap in the face to me to realise actually some days I wasn't actually practising what I preach. And sometimes saying, you know what, I'm actually going to pre-plan my meal, take it out with me and make sure that I have a healthy meal and not have dairy and not have other things. And I came to the conclusion and realised I was playing it safe. I was playing eating disorder recovery safe for a good few months. And come January time, I realised that over Christmas I'd not allowed myself the things that I wanted to allow myself to have. And even up until a few weeks ago, I realised I went away with my boyfriend and I'd not allowed myself to fully be free around food. I was still playing it too safe. And now I've really had to challenge myself and actually ask myself, am I being fully liberated with food? Am I allowing myself to live to my full potential without food ruling my life? And the answer is no, I wasn't. Honestly, I wasn't. And even if I was getting physically healthier again, I just wasn't being true to myself or the message of Nourishing Routes. And I had to really challenge that and ask myself, some days, do I really want a cake? And am I going to deny it? I don't want to live like that. And I ask you, do you want to live like that as well? Playing it safe and living in quasi-recovery land, which is, you might feel healthy physically. Other people might see you as healthy and you're still eating, might be eating really healthy, but you're still living with some element of restriction. So I really, really want to challenge you and myself to really challenge and ask yourself, are you living with some mode of restriction in your life? If so, let's get rid of it. Let's just really tackle it head on. So for me, that involves, I go out to a cafe every day because I'm an absolute caffeine addict. I love places like Starbucks and Costa. But instead of taking a safe snack along with you or having your usual snack, have something off the menu. Challenge yourself to that granola bar that looks really nice but you just think there's too many calories. Go and challenge yourself to that really nice chocolate cake or Victoria sponge cake that's been home baked by someone and offered to you. But instead of saying no, you actually say yes. Yes to life. Because life is not about restricting any form of food. If you really want to get healthy on your mind and want to live your life freely, travel and go wherever you want to go, live how you want to live, then you can't live like restricted to times, restricted to the food groups you will allow yourself and the safe foods that you've always allowed yourself recently but are too scared to venture outside the box. Like, just go and challenge it head on. And I know that can seem really, 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 really scary, and it was for me too. But honestly, once you tackle it, it becomes so much more liberating to live. Like, for example, last night, me and my boyfriend went out to M&S and we looked around the bakery section. And I looked at the bakery and I thought, instead of counting calories and looking about, you know, what the safe foods would be, why don't I just look at something and go, what would Marissa really like to eat right now? And you know what? It wasn't a snack bar or a granola bar. It was, actually, I chose this almond pastry bakes. It's almond, I can't even say the cherry word, like it, Amarillo cherry? I have no idea. But a cherry and pistachio almond bake. And you know what? The thing probably had over 400, 500 calories in it, but I wasn't wanting to count calories anymore. Just thought, I want that cake because it looks nice. I feel like eating it, and even though I've already eaten like 2,000 calories today, I'm still going to eat it because I am not someone who has to follow what society say is the right way to eat. I need to find my own way of eating, and if that means eating over what my body needs, then who cares? I want to live my life and you deserve to live your life. So before I start rambling on with this video, as I always do all the time because I'm so passionate about this topic, just ask yourself, is there anything you're restricting yourself to, or is there anything you're stopping yourself from eating just to feel safe? And if you are, even if it's just one food group or one type of food, or making sure you always have safe foods with you, I'll just invite you to just, you know, ask yourself how you can challenge that and actually take action on it. Because it's all right saying, and me saying, you know, it's good to address a thought, but not taking action on it is just as bad as, you know, just full-blown living in that life of restriction. So first ask yourself, is there some form of restriction there? And then plan to tackle it. So that could look like, I'm going to go out for afternoon snack and I'm going to look at the menu on the cafe board and pick something off the menu. I'm going to go out for lunch with a friend and eat just when I'm there without menu checking or taking my safe food along with me, or God forbid skip lunch and then have something later to make up the calories. Just find a way of sneaking some freedom into your life, because eating disorders don't like freedom. They don't like it. They want to keep us rigid, controlled and feeling safe. That feeling safe isn't actually safe at all, because it stops you living to your full potential. And sometimes that can mean, you know, living in such a restrictive state where you might look healthy, but your body interprets it as restriction to the point where you still don't have periods yet. Your body might internally not be functioning healthy, even though it looks healthy. There's all sorts of things going on inside that we can't see, that we might actually be stopping from functioning healthy because we're mentally living in restriction. So let's let that go and do something that's going to benefit us and our health and also our family's well-being in the long run. Because if we do decide to have a family, or even our current family that we're close to, they don't want to see us living in restriction. We don't want restriction to pass on to others either. We want to set a good example of how a healthy mindset can live. We want to eat what we want, not what anorexia, bulimia, or whatever eating disorder you suffer from wants, because that really isn't living at all. So finally, before I close the video, I invite you to go out there and challenge those fear foods. Even if you are at a so-called healthy weight or a gaining weight and you feel somewhat healthier, if you're living in with a fear food, then kick it out or flick it out. Flick it away and do the exact opposite of what your mind's telling you to do, or the eating disorder, that even though it's in the doorway, just make sure you shut the front door and kick it miles away. It doesn't deserve to be in your life or my life or anybody's life. So I hope you've gained some wisdom from this video, even if I've shared with you some of my own vulnerabilities, because we're not perfect. You know, things can sneak up on us from time to time, but as long as we tackle that and make sure we kick it as far as we can do and make sure it doesn't come back, that's what real recovery is about. It's about saying, I do not accept any form of eating disorder mentality to step into my life. And you do deserve full recovery. You know, whatever you think, you deserve full recovery. So on that final note, I wish you a good week of food challenges, tackling those fear foods, doing the exact opposite of what the eating disorder tells you, and making sure that you live a much more freer and happier life, because that's what we all deserve. Yeah, cake, Starbucks, frappuccinos, anything you want to is allowed. So have a great week, and I'll catch up with you soon when I have to tackle some more of my own fear foods. So goodbye from me and have a happy week. Bye.